October 14, 1943. An SS officer steps into a tailor shop inside the Sobibor death camp. He expects a custom leather jacket stripped from a murdered prisoner. He admires his reflection in the mirror. Behind him, the Jewish tailor quietly locks the heavy wooden door. Two prisoners emerge from the shadows, each grips a heavy iron hatchet. Before the Nazi can turn around, the first axe swings down. A wet crack echoes in the small room. His skull splits open. 1 down, 10 to go. In exactly 60 minutes, a group of starving prisoners will silently assassinate the entire SS command structure of the camp. 11 men killed one by one in precise 15-minute intervals. Then 600 inmates will march out the front gate together. No firearms, no outside reinforcements, just stolen axes, sharpened knives, and a timeline memorized perfectly. The most insane detail is that the plan actually works. It works flawlessly until 4:50 p.m. That is the exact moment the deadliest guard in the compound fails to show up for his scheduled death. How do unarmed prisoners hunt down heavily armed Nazi commanders? And what catastrophic failure breaks the timeline when survival is measured in seconds? By autumn 1943, Sobibor is not a prison. It is an industrial extermination center. It is a factory engineered for the sole purpose of murdering human beings at maximum speed. Hidden deep inside a remote Polish forest, it is surrounded by miles of swamps that swallow all sound. It processes trainloads of Jewish families from across occupied Europe with mechanical efficiency. Trains arrive at a fake railway station decorated with flower boxes and a painted clock frozen at 6. Passengers disembark believing they have reached a labor camp. Within 3 hours, almost everyone is dead. They are gassed with carbon monoxide pumped from captured Soviet tank engines. Their bodies are burned in open-air pits. Their ashes are raked into the sandy earth. The entire process from arrival to cremation takes less time than a feature film. The only prisoners kept alive are a slave workforce of roughly 600 men and women. They operate the killing machinery. They sort the victims' clothing into neat piles for shipment back to Germany. They extract gold teeth from corpses with heavy pliers. They shovel ash and bone fragments into mass graves. Every few months, the Nazis execute them too. They are constantly replaced with fresh arrivals who have not yet witnessed the true horror of the compound. Escape is mathematically impossible. 3 concentric fences of barbed wire ring the perimeter. The outer 2 fences are electrified with lethal voltage. A dense minefield surrounds the outer ring. It is seeded with anti-personnel explosives designed to shred human flesh. Guard towers stud every corner. They are manned by Ukrainian auxiliaries armed with MG-34 machine guns covering every meter of open ground. Beyond the minefield lies a swampy forest crawling with German patrols and Polish collaborators. Previous escape attempts ended in mass executions. One group tunneled for weeks beneath the barracks. They hit a buried mine and died in a hail of bullets. Their bodies were displayed in the roll call yard as an absolute warning. You enter Sobibor standing up. You leave as smoke, but by September, doing nothing becomes even deadlier. Rumors spread through the barracks and terrified whispers. The Nazis are liquidating the remaining death camps to destroy evidence before the advancing Red Army arrives. Treblinka has already been dismantled. Its surviving workers were shot and buried in the same pits they filled with victims. Belzec is bulldozed and planted over with crops. Sobibor is next. The prisoners know what liquidation means. Escape is no longer a fantasy. It is the only alternative to a bullet in the back of the head. On September 23rd, a transport from Minsk rattles into the rail site. 2,000 Jewish deportees are marched directly to the gas chambers, but 80 young men are pulled aside for the work squads. Strong bodies are needed to replace prisoners who died from exhaustion. Among them stands a tall, battle-scarred Soviet Army lieutenant named Alexander Petrsky. His men call him Sasha. He is a Jewish officer captured at the Battle of Vyazma. He has survived 2 years of brutal prisoner of war camps. He arrives at Sobibor with a soldier's discipline and a strategist's mind. He will not die passively. Leon Feldhendler notices him immediately. Leon is a Polish Jew who has been secretly organizing a resistance cell inside the camp. He has courage and contacts among the work details, but he lacks military training. His previous escape plans collapsed for lack of tactical knowledge. Watching Sasha move through the barracks, Feldhendler sees the missing piece. That night, they speak in whispers in the dark. Leon admits they tried everything from tunnels to wire cutters. Nothing works. Sasha studies him and delivers a cold realization. You have not tried killing them. The dreamer meets the soldier. Within 72 hours, they begin planning the largest death camp uprising in human history. Sasha spends his first week doing pure reconnaissance. He memorizes guard rotations. He tracks which towers change shift at which hours. He maps the blind spots between watchtowers where a running man might survive for 30 meters. He notices a fatal flaw in the system. The long-term SS officers at Sobibor have grown fat and sloppy. They treat the death camp like a private luxury resort. They wear wristwatches looted from murdered deportees. They drink confiscated French cognac. They strut around in tailored coats stripped from luggage. Greed has made them careless. They wander the camp entirely unarmed. They trust the electrified fences and machine gun towers to do the killing for them. Sasha realizes he can weaponize that exact greed. The plan is brilliantly simple and horrifyingly risky. They will lure SS officers into isolated workshops one by one. They will use the Nazis' own appetite for stolen luxury goods as bait. Word spreads that special items have arrived on the latest transport: a beautiful leather coat and tailor shop, hand-stitched cavalry boots at the cobbler's, a heavy gold pocket watch in the sorting depot. Each officer receives a personal invitation to collect his prize at a specific time. Each officer will walk blindly into an ambush. They create a kill schedule with 15-minute intervals. It is time to a salvaged pocket watch hidden in the carpentry shed. 4 p.m. Acting Commandant Niemann arrives for his leather jacket. 4:15 p.m. Unterscharführer Wolf visits the cobbler. 4:30 p.m. Rudolf Beckmann enters the sorting warehouse. By 5 p.m., the daily roll call will force all prisoners to assemble in the main yard. By that time, most of the German leadership will be dead. The conspirators will sever the phone lines. They will decapitate the chain of command in a single hour of silent violence. Then comes the escape. At roll call, 600 prisoners will line up as usual. On Sasha's signal, they will march toward the main gate in perfect formation. Without German superiors barking orders, the Ukrainian tower guards will hesitate. The entire camp might simply walk out the front gate before anyone realizes what is happening. It is a desperate gamble measured in blood. By early October, they have assembled hit list. They forge knives from scrap metal in the blacksmith forge. They hide hatchets in the carpentry shed. Then, on October 13th, everything accelerates. The two most dangerous men in the camp leave for Germany. Commandant Reichleitner and his sadistic deputy Gustav Wagner are suddenly absent. This power vacuum will not last. Sasha makes the call. They must strike tomorrow. October 14. Ready or not, the revolt is 20 hours away. Knives are sharpened on concrete. Assignments are confirmed with silent nods. At 3:45 p.m., someone severs the telephone line connecting Sobibor to the outside world. Hearts hammer against ribs. In the tailor shop, 2 men test the weight of their hatchets. Right on schedule, Niemann appears at the door ready to claim his new coat. He walks into an execution chamber. 4 minutes later, his skull is split. Prisoners drag his body behind a curtain. They pile coats over the corpse and scatter sawdust across the blood. Outside, the afternoon continues undisturbed. 1 down, 10 to go. 4:15 p.m. Unterscharführer Josef Wolf strolls into the cobbler hut. He expects custom leather boots fitted to precise physical measurements taken the previous week. A prisoner steps quietly behind him. He drives a sharpened iron blade straight across his throat. Before Wolf can turn around, 2 men catch his collapsing body. They carry 90 kilograms of dead weight to a back storage room. They drape a heavy canvas tarp over the rapidly spreading pool of red blood. The cobbler resumes his work at the wooden bench. His hands tremble from the adrenaline spike, but his face remains entirely blank. 2 down. 4:30 p.m. SS officer Rudolf Beckmann enters the sorting warehouse. He is eager to collect a heavy gold pocket watch spotted in the morning hall. A young Jewish prisoner named Yehuda Lerner lunges from behind a tall wooden shelf. He buries a heavy makeshift knife directly into Beckmann's chest. Beckmann falls backward across a massive pile of stolen clothing. His blood immediately soaks into fabric stripped from people he helped murder. His body is rolled rapidly beneath a wooden sorting table. It is covered entirely with heavy winter coats. 3 down. Over the next 30 minutes, the killings continue in a grim and highly mechanical sequence. Inside the dusty carpentry shed, a Ukrainian collaborator is strangled from behind with a leather cord. He is stabbed repeatedly through the left kidney. Inside the main storage depot, 2 more German officers are axed from behind while examining confiscated binoculars. Their bodies are shoved violently into empty wooden shipping crates. Inside the motor garage, another Nazi officer is bludgeoned repeatedly with a heavy steel hammer. He is struck from the blind side while inspecting a captured Soviet motorcycle. Each time, the rebels work frantically to conceal the physical evidence of the assassinations. They shove heavy corpses behind racks of sorted clothing. They drag bodies under massive piles of cut lumber. They push them into open concrete drainage ditches. The individual workshops rapidly become makeshift morgues. The air inside the small rooms grows heavy with the distinct metallic smell of copper and wet sawdust. By 4:45 p.m., at least 9 German SS officers lie dead. Several of their most brutal Ukrainian auxiliaries are also eliminated. With every single kill, the prisoner sees high-grade military weapons from the warm bodies: Luger pistols, Mauser rifles, heavy ammunition belts, even a few explosive stick grenades. Men who woke up that morning with nothing but wooden soup spoons now grip loaded German firearms. Their hands are slick with the blood of their captors. The physical balance of power inside the camp is shifting. It is shifting invisibly but absolutely. Yet every passing minute multiplies the mathematical danger of the operation. Hiding one body is a manageable physical task. Hiding a dozen bodies is a logistical nightmare balanced on a razor edge. In one workshop, a prisoner assassin cannot move a heavy corpse in time for the next scheduled arrival. He props the dead Nazi upright in a wooden chair. He tilts the officer's hat low over the ruined face. He positions the corpse exactly as if the guard is taking a nap after a heavy lunch. In another room, a rebel mops furiously at a thick blood trail creeping slowly toward the open doorway. A Ukrainian guard smokes a cigarette exactly 10 feet away. He is entirely oblivious to the mechanical slaughter happening directly behind the thin wooden wall. It is a macabre juggling act of lethal physics. Kill, hide, clean, smile. Kill again. Outside, at the main assembly yards, hundreds of prisoners continue their daily forced routines. They rake dry leaves into neat piles. They split heavy firewood with iron axes. They haul massive bundles of sorted clothing across the dirt. They steal terrified glances toward the wooden workshops. They watch SS officers enter the buildings. They never see them come out. The atmospheric tension is completely suffocating. It is a physical pressure building steadily behind every eye. One wrong word, one nervous physical twitch. One tower guard who wonders why he has not seen Neiman in an hour. Everything will explode instantly. Then at 4:50 p.m., the meticulous timeline hits a catastrophic physical snag. SS Oberscharführer Karl Frenzel is one of the cruelest guards in the compound. He is known to shoot prisoners for pure sport. He is supposed to be dead by now. He was scheduled to be lured to the carpentry shop and killed exactly like the rest. But Frenzel never showed up for his execution appointment. He is somewhere in the camp. He has a loaded pistol on his hip. He is entirely unaware that his colleagues are being systematically butchered around him. Frenzel is now a roaming physical anomaly. He is a wild card with exactly 10 minutes left until the mandatory roll call. If he notices the missing officers, the alarm goes up. If he stumbles onto a concealed body, the siren will sound. If he sees a single speck of blood on a prisoner's sleeve, 600 people will face concentrated machine gun fire in an open dirt yard. 10 minutes remain. 11 confirmed kills. 1 living Nazi who can destroy the entire mathematical equation. The salvage pocket watch keeps ticking toward 5. 4:55 p.m. Exactly 5 minutes before the scheduled roll call, a sharp whistle shrieks across the compound. It is immediately followed by the wailing mechanical scream of the camp siren. Someone has found a body. Or someone noticed the severed phone lines. Or someone simply registered the impossible physical absence of every single German commanding officer. The careful deception shatters in a single breath of air. SS Oberscharführer Erich Bauer, returning from an errand at a nearby village, stumbles onto a corpse behind the sorting depot. He sees a polished leather officer boot protruding clearly from beneath a stained canvas tarp. He immediately yanks his pistol from his leather holster. He opens fire blindly on the nearest group of prisoners. He screams violently in German. In that exact heartbeat, Karl Frenzel spots the rising chaos. He sprints toward a reinforced watchtower. He bellows the German word for uprising. The quiet phase of the operation is officially over. It is now pure mechanical war. Sasha Pechersky does not hesitate for a fraction of a second. He vaults onto a heavy wooden table in the center of the assembly yard. He faces hundreds of terrified prisoners who have frozen mid-step. His voice cuts entirely through the sharp crack of gunfire. Comrades, forward to the gate. For one suspended second of time, absolutely no one moves. 600 human beings stand paralyzed between a theoretical hope and a mathematical death. Then his words detonate in their minds. A massive roar erupts from the crowd. It is a sound the Sobibor death camp has never heard. It is the collective scream of the condemned choosing to fight. The mass charge begins immediately. Prisoners drop their wooden rakes. They drop their heavy brooms. They drop their bundles of stolen clothing. They run. All of them run simultaneously toward the main front gate. They run toward the side fences. They run toward any physical breach in the barbed wire. A handful of rebels fire their captured Mauser rifles at the elevated watchtowers. One Nazi sniper topples violently from his wooden perch. He is hit directly in the chest by a lucky bullet. Another tower guard ducks down, completely pinned by the suppressing fire. For 5 critical seconds of time, it is enough. The first massive wave of human bodies reaches the inner perimeter fence. They crash violently against the sharpened barbed wire in a human flood. Karl Frenzel reaches a heavy Me-34 machine gun mounted securely on the nearest watchtower. He racks the heavy steel bolt and opens fire. The weapon shatters at exactly 900 rounds per minute. It stitches horizontal lines of death across the packed dirt yard. Prisoners collapse in staggered rows. They are physically cut apart by the high-velocity ammunition as they run. But the mass of bodies behind them does not stop moving. They physically climb over the falling bodies. They claw frantically at the steel wire. They hack at the wooden post with iron hatchets and bare hands. Some tear their palms to bloody ribbons, ripping the barbed strands apart by sheer physical force. The MG-34 machine gun keeps hammering the yard. Bodies pile heavily against the fence. Still they keep coming. At the main steel gate, a tight cluster of prisoners physically overwhelms 2 stunned Ukrainian guards. They wrestle them violently to the dirt. A captured Mauser rifle becomes a heavy, blunt club. Then it becomes a key. Someone searches the dead guard pockets frantically for the heavy iron padlock key. But Frenzel's sweeping machine gun fire finds them. The gate team scatters into the dirt or dies instantly. The survivors redirect their forward momentum toward a breach in the side fence. Prisoners have finally torn a gap wide enough to crawl through. In 5 minutes of absolute mechanical carnage, the inner perimeter is successfully breached. Ragged figures pour continuously through the gaps in the wire. They stumble into the empty no-man's land beyond. Ahead lies the dark tree line, 200 meters of flat sandy ground. Then the forest. Freedom. Survival. Between them and those trees lie the active explosive minefield. The first prisoners to sprint across the open sand pay the immediate physical price. A deafening blast echoes through the air. A massive geyser of dirt and blood erupts from the ground. The leading runner vanishes entirely. He is torn apart by a buried anti-personnel mine. Another violent explosion triggers to the left. Another explosion triggers to the right. Human bodies cartwheel through the air. Screams blend perfectly with the endless mechanical crack of rifle fire from the towers behind them. And still they run. Stopping means absolute certain death. The only physical path forward is straight through the active explosions. In an act of harrowing mathematical calculation, the second wave of prisoners follows the fresh craters. They sprint directly across the ground already torn open by the first wave of explosions. They gamble entirely on the physical premise that a detonated mine cannot detonate twice. Some run directly over the mutilated bodies of the fallen. They use the dead as gruesome stepping stones across soil that might still conceal more chemical charges. It is a nightmare equation. Survivors are literally climbing over the flesh of their own people to reach the tree line. In this specific calculus of horror, even the dead are actively helping the living escape. Somehow, the impossible math works. Dozens of prisoners reach the dark forest, then scores of them, then hundreds. They are gasping for air. They are bleeding heavily, but they are physically free. Behind them, the MG-34 machine guns keep firing continuously. They cut down the slow stragglers even as they disappear into the dense undergrowth. Perhaps half of those who charge the fence lie completely dead in the yard. They lie shattered in the minefield. They hang from the barbed wire, but against every known statistical probability, roughly 300 men and women break entirely out of the Sobibor extermination camp that afternoon. The immediate physical consequences of October 14 rippled far beyond that specific Polish forest. For the first time in history, starving prisoners had not merely defied a Nazi extermination camp. They had effectively destroyed its operational capacity from the inside out. An enraged Heinrich Himmler, the chief architect of the Holocaust, ordered Sobibor entirely liquidated immediately. The remaining prisoners who missed the mass escape were executed instantly. SS demolition teams bulldozed the entire physical facility. They tore down the gas chambers, the wooden barracks, the electrified fences, the guard towers, the fake rail siding. They paved the entire site with thick asphalt. They planted crops directly over the mass graves. They seeded pine trees to camouflage the terrain on official German maps. Sobibor ceased to exist physically. The Nazis believed they had buried their mechanical crime forever. They were mathematically wrong. Alexander Pakchersky survived the brutal war. He escaped through the dense forest to Soviet partisan lines. He rejoined the Red Army to fight until Berlin fell. Leon Feldhendler survived the mass escape, but was tragically murdered just days before the final surrender of Germany. The remaining 50 survivors scattered across the globe. They testified at war crimes trials, ensured that 250,000 voices would not be silenced by Nazi bulldozers. The prisoners' greatest physical weapon was not the smuggled rifles. It was not the sharpened iron hatchets. It was the simple observation that their heavily armed tormentors had grown lazy. They had the cold courage to exploit that specific psychological weakness. In a single, irreversible hour, they turned Nazi greed into a lethal physical trap. They transformed an industrial death factory into an execution ground for its own operators. The pine trees at Sobibor still stand today. They grow directly above soil that holds 250,000 murdered souls. The system designed to be an inescapable absolute was utterly broken by starving men wielding tools meant for cutting wood. You have just witnessed a fortress of death cracked open by sheer will and stolen axes. But the psychology of escape is not limited to brute force and military tactics. Sometimes the most impenetrable walls are brought down not by explosives, but by chemistry and pure manipulation. If you want to see how a solitary mastermind turned a maximum security system into his own personal playground, you need to watch this next case. A serial killer walked freely out of an inescapable prison simply by feeding 50 armed guards a heavily drugged birthday cake. The full mechanical breakdown of Charles Sobibor, impossible escape from Tihar jail, is waiting for you on Prison Break Stories. The link is on your screen right now.